it did change course, that there was reasonable doubt that the port tack boat could have crossed ahead, and that the starboard tack boat was justified in taking avoiding action, then the port tack boat has broken Rule 10. Okay, so if these conditions are met, first one, this is where, in a situation where there's no contact, and that so the starboard tack boat has done something. So the first question was, did the starboard tack boat change course? Yes. Was there a reasonable doubt that the port tack boat could have crossed ahead? And the reasonable doubt is for the starboard tack boat, because the port tack boat is usually very, very sure that he can pass ahead. And then in that case, was the starboard tack boat justified in taking avoiding action? If we come with a positive answer to all of those questions, then port tack boat has broken Rule 10. If we go back, I think we can agree that the possibility of there being contact was very high, and especially in a rough sea, and so yellow here was totally justified in taking avoiding action. In fact, this question is, if you like, it's more of a question about the definition of keeping clear rather than a simple port and starboard. These incidents happen all the time where there's no contact and the port tack boat has broken a rule. Okay, so in this case, I think 99.9% of protest committees would come to the conclusion that blue has actually broken Rule 10. Used to be that we wouldn't apply this, and we'd say, well, if there was no contact, there was no rule broken. I think sailing has moved on from that. It is supposed to be a no contact sport, and most of the time it is. Unfortunately, not all the time. Okay, that's my point of view there, and I will now stop sharing and answer any questions or await for comments from anybody. Okay.
Well, I'll start.
Yeah.
I'm Robin Sykes. I race on a Deller 3/4 tonner in Dunleary. I have been racing on bigger boats, Sigma 38. So anyway, I've been racing for a long time. And obviously, to me, I only actually saw the scenario about 10 minutes ago on the mail, so I'm delighted to be able to join in. But that is the basic fundamental of sailing. The port gives way to a starboard. And of course, with the rules having changed now, that there must be, both craft must avoid a contact at all times nowadays. So it's, as I say, that's a very straightforward scenario. Blue was absolutely, completely in the wrong, and yellow, well done, yellow, for avoiding any contact.
I would agree with you. The key point is when we're trying to resolve a situation like that, the key question is, did the starboard tack boat need to take avoiding action? Okay, and so, did she have a reasonable doubt? Okay, and that's a question. Sometimes people say, well, no, it's obvious we'd have missed. And you get that, and then, but then, it depends on the weather. It depends on the type of boat. A meter in Dublin Bay with a northeasterly is not enough in a 35-foot boat. Okay.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you.
Well done. Thank you.
Any other?
Jesse, I'm racing up there in a 35-foot boat. So
could you speak up, please?
I'm Ken O'Farrell. I race in Lough Derg in a 35-foot Albergrassi. Are you then in fact saying that the default position is if the starboard boat has right of way and will be believed in all cases? In other words, if one guy is more nervous than another guy and he says, I'm just not going to take the chance, I'm going to tack. At what point is his tack not actually necessary? Judged not to be necessary?
Okay. I have my point of view. Anybody else want to come in on that and express an opinion?
There's any doubt on Yellow's part, well then he must take avoiding action, because we must not touch a boat under any circumstances nowadays.
I don't think you can be quite as absolute about there's any doubt. When we are on a protest committee, we have to decide whether it was reasonable.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not right. The starboard tack boat is not always right. They do have to establish that it is actually reasonable, that they have a reasonable apprehension of a collision. Is that okay?
Yeah, but how is that established?
How do you do that? Is that the question?
Yes.
I would argue that the more you can present facts that are concrete. So, you know, I was 2 boat lengths away, and I thought if I continued on my course, I would hit him just behind the shrouds. That's quite convincing. If you start giving arguments, well, I was a bit worried, and you know, he was going to be a bit close, that's less convincing. Okay. I'm not absolutely sure that there is a totally absolute answer, but it is the starboard tack boat has to demonstrate, as I say, that they were justified in taking avoiding action, that it was the reasonable thing to do. Okay.
Right. Okay.
I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, it's generally speaking, when we're racing, 9 times out of 10 you just drop below the other boat if there's any sort of doubt.
Well, in a lot of cases, you actually want the port tack guy to stand on. You don't want him tacking near you. In which case you don't make a fuss about it and just dip a little bit and let him go through. That's fine.
Yeah.
But there are occasions where you suddenly have to take dramatic action and you feel aggrieved about it.
In this case, it said that he was afraid to go below because the port tack boat might tank. Is that it? That's
yes. There is another point that if you're not sure what the port tack boat is going to do, the first thing a boat will probably do is try and dip you, try and duck you. Yeah. So they're going to bear away.
Yes.
In which case, you bearing away means suddenly you're head on. You think about it. So that may not be the safest thing to do, unless you can, you know, make it clear. But yes, I think we would normally expect when you're on starboard that the boat that's crossing or is coming on in towards you, that if they're not going to cross, they're going to dip. They're either going to dip or they're going to tack. So.
Yeah. Okay. Food for thought.
Okay.
made a comment there about when you want to let the port tacker go through. Is there what's the sort of recognised terminology for waving somebody through that you would be definitive, both from the point of view as a competitor and as in a protest hearing? Like, I know there's things like protest and mark room and things like that are recognised terms, but is there a definitive way of indicating that you're waving somebody through?
One thing I can say is if it's the bowman who's saying to the port tack boat, go through, can he please make sure he's told the helmsman? Because that has happened. There isn't an official form of words. If you go onto an Optimist fleet, they seem to have learnt that when they're on port tack to say, "Can I go?" And then the answer is yes or no. I've heard the starboard tack boat say, "Hold your course." It has to be, there isn't a standard form of words, but if you're going to do that, you have to be very clear.
Right, okay.
Okay, and once you've told the guy that he can cross, even if you're going to have to change course, you actually do have to actually do what you said you're going to do.
Right.
Because then we're getting onto quite complicated territory, rules-wise. So if you tell the guy you can cross and then you don't change course and plow straight into him, that might cause, apart from the fact that it's going to be expensive, it's going to be a complicated rules situation.
Well, it is that scenario. That's why I was wondering if there was a recognized term, because like if you're assuming or taking that you've been told that you can cross, and then somebody decides that no, actually I didn't tell you could cross. That's the only reason. That's the reason the scenario was wondered about the terminology.
Yes.
But it's what you're saying. It's just about being clear, really.
Yep.
Yeah. Right.
Yes, anytime that's happened to me, we make it abundantly clear that they can continue on.
Yes.
Because I'm the tactician, and so I'm shouting, keep going, hold your course.
Yep.
Many times.
Mm-hmm.
So there can be no ambiguity.
Mm-hmm. And if you're on port tack boat, the be absolutely sure that the answer you've got is clear. Yes, and I see somebody saying that yes, a third boat could protest.
Yes, yeah, I know.
yes, they could.
Now we're getting into the real question.
but
yes, because it mightn't suit them. It mightn't suit them for you to let a port-handed boat through.
Okay. Can I throw that question open? If the third boat protests, what rule would they protest on, and why would they? It's
very good.
It used to be the rule a long time ago. Yes, that if in that case you could protest, you would protest, and that's why they took away the rule that because it used to be the rule that if there was an instance, you did have to protest. And if you remember that, and then a third boat could protest you for not protesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, there could be a third boat protest. It's never happened to me, and I'd like to see the person who asked the question could perhaps come in and yes, I was saying they can protest on the rules.
Yeah, Gordon,
yes.
I've seen it happening, and it was, of course, because someone was interested in disqualifying that boat, because then they would gain in the in the classification. So of course,
Yes.
it's not going to happen normally, but I would say if you are in a situation where someone else can gain from that, I would really avoid doing it. If someone else is close by and can protest and gain on their own from that protest, so that they can have an interest in doing that protest, because otherwise it's very unlikely that it happens if the other person doesn't have
Okay, I'm just trying to work through.
I thought it was the case that the third party can only protest if there's been contact.
No.
Can a third party protest when there hasn't been contact nowadays?
Yes. Yes.
In team racing they cannot. If it's a fleet racing, not team racing, they can. If they see an incident, they can protest.
So the scenario there was, if you imagine you have port and starboard between two boats, and the starboard boat lets the port boat cross, but a third boat sees this happen, and it would be in their interest to get that port boat disqualified.
Exactly.
Because they would then go up in the series.
Exactly.
If they saw it, they could protest and get the other boat disqualified.
Yeah, and I have to say, I'm not totally sure if it was a port starboard situation. I think it was, but it could have been another situation. But it was clearly a third boat protesting. And I'm pretty sure it was this situation, because it's the situation where you would let the boat pass, and then the other one saw it and made a protest because they wanted that boat disqualified to get into the gold fleet or something like that.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. See, the point is that does the starboard tack boat need to take avoiding action? No, because he's sailing the course he wants to do, which might be to dip and pass astern of the other boat. That's not avoiding action.
Yeah, well, but then you would have to show that in the protest, in the hearing and all that. And I think
it's not
that.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think.
You know, if personally as a judge, I'd be very unlikely, as far as I can thinking about it now, to penalize a boat that on starboard that says to a port tack boat, let's go through, because there's no need to take avoiding action. There's a change of course, yes, but that's a change of course that is not has been done
voluntarily.
Voluntarily, yes, rather than because there's a need to. Anyway, yes, it's a good.
Does anybody have any other questions about the original scenario? I think we've moved a little bit away from the original problem.
Yeah.
Anybody want to ask anything about that? Have we been clear?
Yes.
So to kind of summarize what Gordon had said, and the answer to the problem that we'd set for week one is the test essentially to the protest committee. So if you're ever dragged into the bar to have to hear a protest that's port starboard, the test is whether the starboard boat had a reasonable apprehension of a collision. So that's the information that you would be trying to pull out of the parties if you had that in front of you in your club in the protest committee. Did the starboard boat have a reasonable apprehension of a collision? And that's, as we said, going to depend on the conditions, the type of boats, the distances between them, what the parties say. So that's really what you need to get into. And I think most of you did in the answers that we saw. Most of you mentioned the definition keep clear, you find that Rule 10 applied, and all the rest of it. So I think you did quite a good job. And really, if you, I think Gordon's already sent you all provisional scores. Is that right? Yes. I think I can say that nobody got the answer wrong. Just there wasn't enough detail in some of them. So please feel free to write as much as you like. I mean, we said 200 words max, but a few bullet points to explain why the rules apply. I think that will really help if you just get comfortable looking through the rule book and pulling out the rules that apply. Does anybody want to ask us anything else about scenario one?
There's a question come up. I've often heard it's said that in this situation you are better off making contact to avoid any ambiguity in the protest.
Absolutely not.
No.
It was mentioned before, I can't remember who did, I think it might have been Robin, mentioned your obligation to avoid contact.
Yes.
So we've already talked about this rule: port starboard, one boat is right of way, the other one has to keep clear. But on top of all of that, you have this rule, it's number 14, and it just says avoiding contact. And all it says is that all boats have to avoid contact. So even if you are the right of way boat, if you force the issue and there is contact that results in damage, and you could have avoided it, but you didn't, you will also be breaking a rule. So in that scenario, if there's a port starboard, so our scenario, let's say blue and yellow, carry on, and there's a big smash, lots of damage, the blue boat will have broken, or the port boat will have broken rule 10, so the port starboard, as we've discussed. But the starboard boat might also have broken this rule about avoiding contact. So both of them are going to walk out of the protest committee room upset because they're both going to be disqualified. So I think it's more, if you find yourself in a situation where you're that starboard boat, you have to avoid contact, that's your obligation. But then when you get into the protest committee room, you want to be arguing why you felt you had to take that avoiding action, why, how close they got, and if I had carried on, there would have been a T-bone or something. You know, you want to convince them of that rather than with physical contact and damage, I would say. If that answers your question, I hope. Good.
Can I just add to that? A good thing to do when you're in that context on starboard and you're thinking about bearing away or tacking, make sure that you shout loud enough so that all the other boats around you turn and look. And make sure that your change of course is dramatic enough so that it's visible. You do want people to be watching you so you've got a witness, because that's when it comes to the a protest hearing, having a witness who can back you up will always be very helpful. So making sure that you've got somebody on board with a loud voice attracting people's attention as the situation develops is very useful.
Good point.
Any other questions? Okay, so if not, I've just been asked there, if you did not get the email about this this webinar, but you find it on the website or something, if you'd like Sarah Louise to contact you about the rest of the challenge and with the link to the next webinar, you just send her your email address, and you can see her email address is in the chat window there, ls.roster@sailing.ie. So if you email her, she'll add you to our mailing list and you'll get all that information. And I think you will find later on today, the second scenario is going to be posted. So, and this is a slightly different one. It puts you in the position of being the race officer, but you'll see what it looks like when you see it. And as I say, if you have any feedback on how you think this went, or if you have any ideas for scenarios that we should think about, please let us know. And going forward, so the second one, I think we're going to ask for the answers by Friday week. So that's the 17th of April, I think, because next week is obviously Easter. And then we'll do the webinar after that on the Tuesday. I think it's the Tuesday after Easter. We'll just do the same thing. So you have 2 weeks to answer this problem. But as I say, please put in as much detail as possible and look up as many rules as you think might apply to make your answer as convincing as possible. And in the meantime, if you have any questions, please let us know. We'll be happy to answer anything. We have time on our hands at the minute, I can say.
It's on the Irish Sailing webpage as well, if you need it, just in case you don't get the email.
Yes, I get the regular emails. Thank you very much indeed. But I think I just got a mail this afternoon, and I was just looking at it, and I just saw the all about this, and I clicked into it. So I don't. Maybe it was in last week's one or the previous one, but or maybe I just missed it.
Yep, no problem.
I only got it half an hour ago, whatever.
If you want to ping me or text me or whatever your email address, I'll make sure you get into the next lot of mailing list.
Well, I mean, I do get regular ones from you.
Okay. Must have just been through the net then, the previous one. Sorry about that.
Thank you very much. Anyway, a wonderful initiative. Well done. And in these unknown days that we're going through, something like this is absolutely fantastic. So well done. Thank you very much indeed. And I look forward to writing an answer for the next one.
No problem. No problem. Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you very much, guys. Okay.
Okay. Stay safe.
So take care.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye bye.